Ya marhaba. Right now I want to talk about a special category of words in formal Arabic, which we call al-ism al-manqus. Sometimes we refer to that in English as defective nouns. These are nouns whose judr, whose root, ends with a waw or a ya that's rendered as a ya sometimes in the final word. These words have two basic forms. In the indefinite, sometimes that ya is going to disappear and be replaced by fatha tanween, so we'll get that in sound. And in the definite form, we do retain the ya, typically, except in a couple of circumstances. Over here are some examples of nouns that you might recognize. We've got tahaddin, challenge, the noun, a challenging thing. Maldin, past, noun or adjective. Ghalin, expensive. Nadin, club, like the place where you would go for a drink or some dancing. Alin, meaning high or tall, like a building. Walin, which means a governor. Aghanin and karasin are actually plurals for ughniya, song, and kursi, chair. But the plurals fall into this category of nouns. As you can see here, in their definite forms, all of these words are going to retain a ya at the end. But here, because marfu'a is the default form, we've dropped the ya. This is actually important if you go to look up a word in a dictionary, often because marfu'a is our default setting. You'll find any of these words in a dictionary in their slightly odd-looking form with a kasra tanween, but we need to know, if we're looking up words based on judr, that there is actually a ya or a waw that's part of the root. So, to sum it up, if any of these nouns are definite, they're going to work perfectly normally. We're going to keep the ya. Visually, nothing is going to look that different on the page. In indefinite, we're going to drop the ya in marfu'a and majrur. In mansub, we're going to keep that ya and add a normal fatha tanween ending. So let's look at some examples. If we want to say, we ate in a big club. Oops. Fi, and now we need to think about a club. Well, we have fi, which is a preposition, so our noun is going to be majrur, which means that we're not going to have that ya represented visually. We're going to write it like that. And if we were including all of our case endings, maybe we'd include the kasra tanween as well. Nadin, kabirin. Or we visited a big club. Zurna, now club, nadin, is the object of the verb zurna. So we're going to write nadiyan. And we're going to keep that tanween and the ya. Kabiran. Or if we wanted to say we visited the club, we would just say Zurna al-nadi, and here, because it's definite, we're going to keep our ya. Another example, if we wanted to say we sat in big chairs. Jalasna fi. All right. It's not definite, just some chairs, some indefinite chairs. So we're going to go with karasin because it's majrur. Karasin, let's say wasi'a. So the adjective that's describing the chairs, the karasin, is going to follow normal case ending rules. Only this one noun is going to be affected. But it's also majrur because of the preposition. Or if we wanted to say we sat in the chairs, jalasna fi al-karasi. And here, again, because it's definite, we're going to keep that ya, and visually nothing is going to change. Some, but not all, of these nouns take regular plural endings. And in a case like that, the ya also gets chopped off. So if we wanted to talk about the next president's plural, or the next employees plural, or something like that, we could use another one, which I didn't think to include, telin or teli. But we want to talk about the next group of employees to get hired or something like that. So we would say الموظفون التال, and then we chop off the ya, but we do add that regular un plural ending. Or if this regular plural noun were mansub or majroor, we would just tack on the in variation instead on both of those nouns. One important thing, this exceptional set of rules is only for masculine nouns. Versions of these same nouns or adjectives that are feminine with ta marbuta are completely exempt from these rules. They function completely normally. Normal rules apply. So if we were talking about a grammatically feminine governor of Oklahoma or New Mexico, we could write waliya, tack on our ta marbuta, and that ya is always going to be retained. There's never going to be a circumstance where we're going to feminize one of these nouns or adjectives and also chop off the ya. It's just not going to happen. Or if we were talking about a coming female president, a future succeeding female president, we could say Raisa and use that same noun, or excuse me, that same adjective, Teliya. Still indefinite, but we keep the ya because it's an adjective that's feminine, matching a feminine noun, so we're good to go. In spoken colloquial Arabic, as you might suspect, this set of rules goes pretty much unenforced. It would be unusual to pronounce nadin or karasin in a normal spoken conversation. We would just say nadi or karasi or tali or whatever the case may be. But again, in formal writing, this is a case where it becomes necessary to know these rules because it's going to have an impact on how our text looks on a page and how correct it seems to other educated users of Arabic.